It can be very special, but rare, to have big moments in your life like the pure joy that a dog has when they see one of their favorite people. Not sure which breed is best for you? Nothing beats that enthusiastic tail wag and cheerful bark when a canine sees someone they love. Today, we've found some stories of dogs that love very specific delivery drivers, and I hope you're ready because these stories are sure to leave you smiling for hours. We even had a heartwarming story about a runaway doggo, but that one is coming at the end. So buckle up because we have some perfect stories for you today. Alright, make sure you're ready with a hanky or start chopping some onions now because this one is really going to get you. It was a toasty day at the end of summer of 2020 when Amazon driver John Casabria was on shift making important deliveries around Wilburn, Massachusetts. In what at the moment must have been frustrating, but ultimately ended up being a fortuitous turn of events, he found that he had gone the wrong way. So he pulled over and stopped his delivery van so he could adjust his GPS and get back on his way. However, once he turned off his engine, he heard a strange and unsettling noise. Although John wasn't sure what the noise was, you thought it was worth investigating, so he set off in the direction of the sounds. After a few minutes of searching, he found himself in front of a fence that surrounded a yard. When John peeked over the fence, he went cold. He knew he had to act immediately. What John had seen was a sweet senior dog, Luca, almost completely submerged in a pool. Luca, a 14-year-old Husky, was barely imagined to keep his head above water, and the disturbing sounds John heard was him calling out for help. John didn't stop to think. He leaped over the fence and dove into the pool without even stopping to take his shoes off. He made it to the middle of the pool where Luca was stuck and managed to pull him over to the shallow end and drag him out of the water. From there, John called animal control and waited with Luca for over an hour until they arrived and got in contact with the dog's owners. Luca's owners were beside themselves with gratitude and even sent a letter to Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to sing John's praises for his heroic rescue. You can bet that Luca won't soon forget what John did for him, but for John, it was just natural. In a statement, he said, "Animals are my life, and I can't imagine what I'd do if my dog was in Luca's situation." Well, we can all be glad that John was working that day. Now, I know we all want to hear about the runaway dog, but there's another dog in the water story that must be shared first. Who knew there were so many dogs in distress? In contrast to that brave summer rescue in 2020, this doggy rescue happened on a chilly winter day in December of 2018 in Bozeman, Montana. UPS driver Ryan Orens was driving his route when he also heard a disturbing and unusual sound. However, it didn't take much searching to see where the desperate sounds were coming from. Stuck in the middle of an icy pond was Sadie, a wire-haired pointing griffin. Knowing that he had to act fast, Ryan ran over to a man nearby in a boat who had been trying without success to chip away the ice and make his way over to the pooch. Ryan jumped into the boat and used it to rock back and forth across the ice towards Sadie. Having already stripped down to his boxers, Ryan made his way into the water and swam the rest of the way to grab Sadie and pull her back to shore. A bystander let both Ryan and Sadie into his house where they were both able to warm up in a hot shower while waiting for the animal control and police to arrive. Once again, a very lucky pup who just happened to be rescued by an avid animal lover. Ryan himself said, "Animals are my weakness," and that it was the highlight of his 14-year UPS career. I mean, you've really got to love animals if you're willing to risk your life in a frozen pond to rescue one. To add the extra cherry on top of this already adorable story, a little while after the incident, Ryan ended up delivering a package Mercedes owner. And when he arrived at the house, he found the dog absolutely beside herself in excitement to see him. It was a sweet and emotional reunion and really showed how sensitive dogs are to people who are kind to them. Sadie clearly remembered her savior, and Ryan has a new friend for life. Now that you've heard about a couple of dogs who found themselves in a spot of trouble, what about a dog who was troubled himself? Well, stay with us because we have one more heart-melting story before you leave today.
Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story.
A UPS driver had a regular route through his town, and it wasn't long before he noticed one stunning and fluffy feature. a sweet golden retriever who seemed to wander one particular neighborhood on his delivery route. The driver didn't know the dog's name or who he belonged to, but he figured he must live with someone in the area since he was well socialized and looked to be healthy and well cared for. After several weeks of seeing the same pup, the driver decided a friendship needed to be established. So, the next time he came armed with some delicious doggy treats. The pup was thrilled, and every time the delivery driver came into the area, he would be greeted by the eager dog and his furiously wagging tail. However, delivery drivers lead a busy life and sometimes other priorities get in the way. So one day the unthinkable happened. The driver forgot to pack his dog treats. And when he showed up in the dog's neighborhood, he did so empty-handed, given that he was understandably feeling a little guilty. The driver decided to just go about his route and pretend to not notice the dog on this particular day. He saw the pup briefly, but went about his work and soon was on his way. The driver hadn't been driving long though before he heard some strange sounds coming from the back of his truck, but he managed to convince himself that it was likely just some packages shifting in the back and continued driving. But when he arrived at his destination, he received the shock of his life. The golden retriever, likely annoyed at the lack of treats, had decided to take matters into his own paws and had climbed into the back of the delivery truck in search of his beloved dog Cookies. The driver was flabbergasted, but also amused. The dog loved snacks so much, he had decided to stow away in his vans in hopes of receiving some. The driver still had some stops to make, so he finished off his day's work and made his way back to the neighborhood where he was used to seeing the dog. He still didn't know where the pup lived, but decided to drop him off in an area under the assumption that he would know how to make his way home. Little did the UPS driver know he was being watched the whole time. Later that week, after sharing the story of the runaway dogs with several friends, the driver was alerted to a Reddit post that had since gone viral. The post featured a picture of the familiar dog with the sign hung around his neck that read, "The UPS man forgot to throw me a cookie. So I snuck into his truck and took a ride around the neighborhood. He had to deliver me back to my house." Turns out this whole time, the dog's owner had seen the interactions between the driver and the dog. And when they noticed the dog missing, they got very concerned. But upon seeing the driver arrive and let the dog out, they put two and two together and realized why the dog had escaped for a joyride. Honestly, hard to blame the dog though. If you're used to getting cookies, then it's a real slap in the face if someone shows up without one. Well, the UPS driver learned his lesson. He never again left for his routes without a full bag of treats, and he definitely checked to make sure no more dogs have managed to sneak in to hit your ride. While these stories might seem hard to believe, the world of dogs and delivery drivers are well documented. In fact, there is an adorable Facebook page entirely dedicated to the dogs that UPS drivers meet while on the routes, and several individual drivers have dedicated social media accounts for the sweet interactions with the pups they meet every day. It's funny, there are so many jobs that have people interacting with animals, but you wouldn't think one of the biggest ones would be a delivery driver. Pretty good perk of the job, don't you think? Well, now you know. If you want to interact with dogs all day, be a delivery driver seems like an awesome bonus to have. And who knows? You might even end up a hero like one of the first two men in this video. Not to mention a hero for delivering essential items in a time of need. We've heard that people have had amazing experiences interacting with dogs. Can you tell me about one of the sweetest and most unusual interactions you've had? Thank you so much for watching.